All right, my friends, it looks like we are live for this live stream here for Sunday afternoon. I'm just checking the split screen, looking at the connection. It does say excellent connection, and hopefully it'll stay that way. All right, so I'll give this a minute or two, see if anybody drops in. Looking at OBS. Looks like it's green. Okay, very good. I'm just at home chilling, watching TV, and I just actually tweaked my Amazon Fire 8 tablet. Now it runs faster. And I got the TV on to the Hallmark channel. Of course. So there's something about happy endings, right? Anyway. All right, let me see. It looks like OBS is going from green to yellow, so I'm not sure what's going on here. It seems like ever since last month's storm and the power went out, it hasn't been quite the same streaming. Well, maybe it's just my imagination, but all right, we'll give this a shot. So for today's topic, I picked up some comments off of Facebook about Ubuntu. There's a Linux fan page. I forget the name of the group. I'm not going to mention names about who posted comments. I picked some of the highlighted comments of what I think are the best comments. So we'll try that and see what happens about Ubuntu. All right, let me get my comments here up ready to go. All right, let's get started with the comments. And if there's anybody watching this now, I'll get to your comments in the chat here as soon as I'm done with this. This will not be a long one, just some highlighted comments from the Facebook page about Ubuntu. I guess before I begin, let me just say that I was looking at the YouTube analytics. It looks like 70+% of you who watch this channel, these shows, are not subscribed to the Total OS channel. That's a lot. So I guess part of it is my fault, and I should say make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss the next show or the next video. All right, let's go to some of these comments, and I'm sure I'll miss most of you here live, so maybe I'll catch you next time. Okay, so these are some comments from the Linux fan page on Facebook. Some comments, there's not all of them, there's probably hundreds of comments by now, I'm sure. So this is about why some people hate Ubuntu. And next to the last comment that I have here that I'll read to you, I think is the best comment of all. All right, so let's get started. Comments about why people hate Ubuntu. People don't hate Ubuntu, just what they've become recently, and the fact they've kind of lost sight of what made them great, both as a standalone and as part of and for the Linux community. I feel this way since GNOME 3 came out. All right, so I started with Ubuntu back in 06 with the GNOME 2 desktop, or I'll call it G2. Then they switched to Unity back in 2011. I thought Unity was fine. I thought it was easier to learn than G3 or GNOME 3. Then in 2017, just at the peak of Ubuntu, in my opinion, they switched to G3 or GNOME 3 Desktop, and it hasn't been the same since. So yeah, all things considered, if I had to pick one desktop environment for Ubuntu, I think I still liked Unity probably the best, with GNOME 2 a close second. All right, next comment. It's their fanboys and fangirls, not so much the distro or Canonical for that matter. Well, everybody has to be a fan of something, right? Whether it's Ubuntu or not. Next comment. There are people somewhere that hate anything. Someone somewhere hates Ubuntu. Someone somewhere hates Arch, hates grass, hates the sun. Someone somewhere hates the beach, etc. It doesn't mean anything is inherently wrong with it. There are tons of people who like it. If you like it and it works for you, that's all that matters. I would have to agree. You can't please everybody. And if something does work for you, no matter what it's based on, that's all that matters. So I completely agree with this comment. Next comment. They lost me by forcing snaps. Total crap, this person said. Well, I don't understand this, because who is the they and what's all this fuss about forcing? I have Ubuntu installed on my PC to the left of me on my 50-inch 4K TV. Ubuntu in 4K on a 50-inch TV looks great, or on a 4K 50-inch TV. Firefox is installed by default as a snap. It's a little slow, so I deleted it. I installed Brave browser, then I installed Chrome browser. Problem solved. Now, I wasn't forced to do anything. There wasn't somebody holding a meatball sandwich to my head and say, hey, you better use Firefox Snap Package or we'll whack you on the head with a meatball sandwich. Nobody forced me. You have a choice to install or uninstall anything that you like. So Canonical or Ubuntu, they're not forcing anything. It's just something that they've built into by default in Ubuntu. Again, Linux is about freedom, right? So all of a sudden, if you install Ubuntu, you've lost your freedom? I'm not buying this where supposedly they are forcing you to use snap packages. Nobody is forcing you to use anything. If you don't like it, delete it or try something else altogether, right? Next comment. All of what is written is true, but to be fair, Ubuntu changed the way people looked at Linux. Linux wouldn't be there where it is today without Ubuntu. I mean, all the Magia, Mandrake, Slacks, and other archaic Linux users who used Linux in the 90s would only make a few percentage of all Linux users. Well, Ubuntu changed the way people look at Linux. Yeah, back in 2006, I saw Linux had potential even back then, even before some Linux became easier for Windows users. I saw the potential thanks to Ubuntu. All right. Next comment. I don't hate it, but the inclusion of Snap as primary software has killed it for me. Okay, once again, you don't have to use Snap packages or Flatpaks or Debian packages or app images or anything else out there. Okay, so if you don't like Snap packages, don't use them. I use what works. I don't use a lot of snaps, just a few when it's necessary. Next comment. It was nice till they forked off from Debian into this abomination. I like the word. Non-standard folder replacement schemes. Is it GNOME? Is it something else? One day they will break ties with GNOME. One day something else. They're too confused. Okay. Installing too many extensions, too many tweaks. Yes, you can break the system. I install a few tweaks in Ubuntu to make it easier, to make it more functionable out of the box. Luckily, the extensions I install in Ubuntu don't seem to affect the performance or break the system. And I think nowadays, you don't need a lot of extensions to make Ubuntu friendlier for beginners, for Windows users. All right, next comment. Ubuntu itself is fine. I stick to the Debian family, and that includes Ubuntu derivatives, such as KDE Neon for desktop environment, and that's Ubuntu based. Yeah, you have lots of choices out there that are Ubuntu based that are quite good. Ubuntu itself, again, it is a choice. And once again, if you install Ubuntu, you can install different desktop environments if you want to. I used to do that in the past, but not anymore. All you got to do is log out, and I think to the right of the screen you can click a spoke wheel, then choose whether to boot into GNOME or Budgie or the Mate desktop with Ubuntu as the base. All right, next comment here. Hating on it is just ego laziness. Interesting. No good reason to hate on any distro in particular. Distro choice is just personal preference. If they don't like the out-of-box shell, they should learn how to install a different shell. As I just mentioned, if they don't like a particular feature or app that Ubuntu installs, they should learn how to uninstall. Yeah. All right. This next comment I think is my favorite, perhaps the most diplomatic. Let's get one thing straight. Ubuntu is the greatest Linux distro. Why? Because you can't even have a discussion about Linux without mentioning Ubuntu. I'll say it again. Ubuntu is the greatest Linux distro. Why? Because you can't even have a discussion about Linux without mentioning Ubuntu. Pretty much. And the hate is real. Notice that people hardly say anything about Shuttleworth, comments on Canonical, but the reason for so many responses to your question of why people hate Ubuntu is because everybody has had some encounter with it. Yeah. If it wasn't for Ubuntu, would you be here? I probably wouldn't be here. Probably many people would not have experienced the potential for Linux if it wasn't for Ubuntu or Ubuntu based. Doesn't mean you have to use it now, but I have to give them credit, right? All right, we're almost done here. Next comment. After a drink of water. It's like the McDonald's hamburger of Linux. You very well might not like Mickey D's, but you damn sure can't deny that sign says over 1 billion served. Why? Because of their dominance in the market. Well, I don't know if Ubuntu has served 1 billion users. That would be nice. Microsoft certainly has. Linux or Ubuntu doesn't even come close yet. But if you know anything about Linux, you probably have heard or used something based off Ubuntu for better or for worse. Finally, this one's kind of funny. Why some people hate Ubuntu is because they use Arch, by the way. That's an inside joke, but yeah, evidently most people who hate Ubuntu use Arch. That's just a joke. I have no idea if that's true or not. That's speculation. I've used Arch base in the past. It was not for me, but if you use Arch and it works, then so be it. I keep going back to that comment. Ubuntu is the greatest Linux distro because you can't even have a discussion about Linux without mentioning Ubuntu. Nice one. Whoever said that, spot on. Currently, I'm using Ubuntu Mate, by the way. You know, maybe that should be the next Inside Linux joke. You know, when people say, like, I use Arch, by the way, change that. I use Ubuntu Mate, by the way. And just leave it at that, right? All right, so those are some of the comments that I caught off the Facebook page. I'm sure that I think it's Linux Fan Group or Linux Fans Group if you're interested. I know probably a lot of you don't use Facebook that much. I do sometimes, but check it out. I'm sure there's a lot more comments, insightful comments on there about why supposedly some people hate Ubuntu. All right. I just realized it's almost dinner time, and I am starting to get hungry. So for those of you I missed, I apologize. If you haven't already subscribed, as I stated before, it looks like over 70% of you have not yet subscribed, even though you watch these types of informative, hopefully informative videos. So make sure you are subscribed, then consider clicking on the notification bell so you know when I jump on at random surprise times, like right now before dinner. And I'm going to eat. That's all I have for this one. Let me know what you guys use. Again, sorry I missed you on this one. We may do this again here. I try to do the Windows Wednesdays, early morning podcast, and maybe we'll do something next Sunday. So, again, if I missed you, I'll catch you on the next one. If you want to sponsor a live show, let me know. No matter what you use, good luck with it. I hope it makes your life a little bit easier. Ciao.